Con Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, past performance does not determine future performance.
Agreed.
And, people rest on their laurels. They feel entitled. The other conversation is that people are like, well, I've never made it, so I'm not going to make it into the future. Mm-hmm. So it works on both sides of the equation.
Yep.
Why is it so important for people to say, hey, you've got to put a line in the sand and make a decision to go and chase what you want?
Well, I think it's realising the potential and the opportunity that's at hand. And I think a lot of people don't realise what that looks like. So therefore they just get on with what they know, what's comfortable, what's safe. I mean, comfort's the killer, right? And this isn't a motivational talk about, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. This is about just going, hey, I'm a big believer that everyone's capable of more.
Sure.
And this isn't about pushing people to do more. This is about unlocking the brilliance and the magic that we all have.
It's not time, it's skill.
That's exactly what it is. And it's a commitment. It's all it is. Like if you're really good at prospecting and you can get into, 10 MAs a week.
Yes.
But you can only convert 20 or 30% of those.
Yes.
How long is it going to take you for you to make a decision to decide that I've got to become better at conversion?
Yes.
Or auction or clearance rates, whatever it is.
Yes.
So I think it's really interesting because, we definitely review past performance only as a future potential indicator. So, for example, April, we spoke about that a couple of episodes ago where, April 2026, we got Easter and school holidays literally jammed up and Anzac Day on a Saturday. So now that we've got the insights of what April 2025 looks like, we can obviously predict what that may look like. However, we don't look at what we did last month. It's kind of literally at a glance, okay, on track, off track. What do we need to adjust and tweak to be able to have a better result this month?
So when predicting markets, I like to look at forward indicators. And I know that you've got some incredible tools that are proprietary in your team.
Yep.
And one of those tools lets you know about listings and sales and price reductions in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
And I'm amazed that as an industry more broadly that isn't mandated because when I start to think about it, it helps you with buyers, it helps you with sellers, it helps you with current campaigns, it helps you with prospecting, it helps you with activities. But if you're saying and maybe the US term on this was quite interesting about how much inventory have you got out there, Khan?
Yeah.
It's like, so if there's 100 houses selling every month and there's 1,000 houses on the market, there's 10 months worth of inventory.
Correct.
If all of a sudden there's 250 a month, then there's only 4 months worth of inventory.
Yep.
And that actually would determine whether it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, or the types of activities that would be important. So, we're hearing, and a lot of us, we've got some great friends over in Perth, and their conversation is saying circa there's 3,200 houses for sale, but they're selling 800 a week.
Yeah.
So they've only got 4 weeks worth of supply.
That's right.
And so the problem is now is that the sellers don't want to sell because they can't find somebody to go and buy.
That's exactly right.
And so that objection's coming back up again. And you're I heard that one once before.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting. So if you look at forward indicators, I assume that you look at things like opens and auctions and auction clearance rates and number of people that are coming back for second looks and people that are then maybe even getting copies of pest and building reports. And maybe people that what's actually happening to physical inspections during the week and, what's the total listings on website and how many we're listing a month and how many we're selling a month. And it's interesting that a lot of people don't actually have those metrics right. But isn't this the role of what great sales and property management leaders are there to do, is to be able to see when something's off earlier to then go and have that conversation?
Absolutely.
100%. So a good friend of mine was in a position that became second at Bathurst a couple of weekends ago.
Oh, wow.
And he's a phenomenal race car driver. And one of the things that you realize very, very quickly is that the team managers actually seeing things as he's seeing things, but they're looking at different components to then be, strategic about how you actually go and win that race. And I just think about that, if you think about the basic numbers to track and measure, is there anything in particular that you really look at to make sure that your business is performing so that you can adjust early if things come off track? Because you tend to know earlier than anyone else that there's going to be a change.
I think all those metrics that you just spoke about, all those metrics that you just spoke about are all relevant. I mean, we've got a couple of more in there. For me, a lot of it is consumer sentiment and agent sentiment.
Yes.
So if you're out and about at open homes and auctions and you can see how many registered bidders, what the participation looks like, then you're getting a really good understanding. And we've got a very broad geographical spread. So I can get a very good, easy, quick feel about which markets are performing really, really well, which ones are a little bit depleted, which ones, need a bit more work or support. But at the same time, it's also being very connected to the people in your office. You can see people, you can see the energy that they bring in, you can see the intensity of the work. And I think as a leader, our role is to be able to predict what the next play is going to be. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we've got, Amit last month listed 44 properties. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we already know what one of his challenges may be, not will be, may be, which is how do we manage that stock? Mm-hmm. Campaign management, buyer management, stock management, vendor management, right?
And keep him listing.
It's exactly. Mm-hmm. So the job of the leader is to be able to look at, what's worked with others. Mm-hmm. So using case studies and reference points and being able to transfer that to other people, but also looking at market conditions, consumer sentiment, economic data. It's actually all of it. It's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm. So this is that whole idea, like, you go and say, okay, great, you're at 20 transactions a year.
Yep.
What does it take to get to 22?
Yeah. Well, we're probably saying, what does it take to get to 40?
But let's think about that. What does it take to get to 22? And you're like, oh, maybe I'll do an extra call. Maybe I'll do an extra DL.
Sure.
But if I then say, but Con, now how do we get you from 20 to 200? Everything breaks.
Yep.
But I can't do 20 opens on a Saturday. I'm going to need to have a team. I need an ops person. I need someone else who could do open for inspections for me. And geez, my marketplace big enough. And so what that level of thinking requires is it actually breaks everything. And so then all of a sudden you have to then rethink about what's actually possible.
Yes.
And so this is interesting, is that we're going to push you through an exercise in a moment.
Okay.
And what this exercise is all about is about like really looking about performance.
Yep.
And so when you're thinking about how could we substantially improve the performance of said business or individual or maybe service line, depending on how your brain wants to work today, is understanding that there's a simple tool. So we were watching this with the All Black stuff, and what they do is that they've got a thing called the MEDDIC method.
MEDDIC, okay.
So, and what the MEDDIC method is okay, great, what do we need to maintain?
Okay.
So
gotcha.
When you think about that, it's like we need to maintain focus on open for inspections, open for inspection numbers, offers that are actually happening, making sure we've got minimum total number of listings on website to make sure that we're building buyer audiences. So we need to maintain all of that.
Yes.
What do we need to eliminate?
Okay.
Is there anything in the industry or is there anything in businesses that you think people need to eliminate? I'll go with one, then you go with one.
Yep.
One is confusion in a team.
Yeah.
So I want absolute clarity. This is what we do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
Monday's buyers, Tuesday sellers, Wednesday current listing review.
Yes.
Daily directions meeting every day, 3 p.m. loop back.
Yeah.
And also I'd never want to hear anyone in a team go, just when we're not sure if we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Like I want everyone to have 100% permission about what do you actually do inside of your job role.
Yes.
To be able to go and perform, because the way that you talk about your business is how it actually becomes.
Yes.
Anything you think about from an elimination point of view?
I think that's a really good one. If I'm looking at eliminate, it's probably negative self-talk and belief. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of that people carry around, in particular, getting from 20 to 30 transactions. We're not, it might sound like it's a 50% increase, but it's the belief around that. So I'd say, how do we eliminate the negative self-talk and the belief systems?
What do we want to decrease?
Yep.
I would say days on market.
I was about to say days on market.
But we also want to decrease non-committed. So in other words, everything has got to be in this view that it's off market to the view to go on.
Yep.
We do whatever is in the best belief on behalf of the owner.
Yep.
But it's really important to decrease non-committed transactions.
Yeah, I think it's also what can we do to decrease non-dollar productive activities or tasks that take away from a primary focus of getting a deal done, listed, sold, whatever.
And then what do we want to increase?
Yeah, so for us, we want to increase energy because we've got that we've got 9 weeks literally left of Christmas. So it's all about increasing that energy to get there. But also for us as a leadership team, it's increasing our recruitment pipeline.
Yeah, and I also want to increase people's belief about results as opposed to time.
Yes.
So if you've got results orientation, you can go on holidays from the 1st of December.
I like this, MEDDIC.
If you hit this listing, if you hit the listings target, the sales target, then the listings target for 2026.
Yeah.
And then the last one, what do we want to create?
Oh, well, for us, it's the best place for people to change their lives. So we want to create something special. We want to make a dream come true every hour. So that's what keeps us. That's what keeps us pushing.
And when I think about creation, I want to create a better quality vendor experience so that vendors can understand what's happening actually accept it, and then feel motivated to act.
Yes, correct.
So I'm now thinking about
Real
what
time.
is the quality of my vendor reporting? What is the quality of my vendor meetings? What's the quality of my advisory?
Yes.
So then people can go and have those conversations.
This is very good. Was this Gilbert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
He's unbelievable good at a knuck-up.
Yeah.
And so that basic idea, maintain, eliminate, decrease, increase, and create, the MEDDIC format, is that a good, useful coaching tool to get more performance?
Outstanding.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, I was thinking about work ethic, and I've been very blessed that I grew up in the country, and as a part of that, I don't ever remember fighting for more screen time. And what I do remember very, very clearly is that literally when I was like chomping at the bit for the chance that when was I going to be old enough to be able to ride the ride on mower and mow the grass? and when was I allowed to use the whippersnipper? And when was I allowed to paint the picket fence with mum and dad? But like the whole thing about it is that we would talk this work ethic that like from the moment that sun comes up until the moment that sun goes down, you're working at something.
Yeah.
And you're doing, and you're constantly renewing, and you're doing all of the things that really get there. And I think it's interesting that work ethic has then been instilled in everything that we have done. And, I just have this belief that it's not work-life balance. Like life is work in one way or another, whether or not it's in a professional career or in personal relationships or the things that you're doing to make your community better, or even if you're working for more, balance or clarity or whatever it is that you want. But you're always working at something. And it's interesting about that the work ethic never has left me, that I love to, how do I push this? How do I make the car go faster? How do we go to do those things to make the business even better? It's interesting though. I'm not sure that the next generation necessarily have got the same view that work ethic is there. And it's a society where, and I used this quote earlier this week where it was like, we see something we like, we add to cart, but then when it's all too hard, we just delete.
Yeah.
And I think people are doing that with relationships inside of the workplace, with the people inside of their team, and they're not actually helping people to level up about what's really required to get to a different level of success.
Well, it's very similar to me. I think I was going to talk about compound interest.
Yes.
So compounding.
Eighth wonder of the world, my dad would say.
Yeah, that's right. But the compounding effect of really good activities, really good call sessions, AM for prospecting, PM for face-to-face, doing that every single day, rinse and repeat. Same thing with moving your body, eating the right food, having great night's sleep. Just the magic and how simple it is to be able to get that, that next level up.
Something that's changing your view.
In business, Con, I actually think that speed is your big advantage.
I agree.
So like when I see something, and you've seen some projects that we're working on at the moment, when I see something that I want, I go all in on it.
Yep.
And I think that that's the thing to how quickly can I get this thing out the door? And I just see people just fumble like good ideas and they just don't get them live.
Yeah.
And I think that, I was very lucky. I got to work inside of newspapers. And so with newspapers, we really had this foundational idea of a deadline. And we would know how big the newspaper was going to be based on how many ads there were being placed for tomorrow.
Yes.
And so it had to be a minimum of 50% ads to editorial content. So if we only had 24 pages worth of ads, we only had 24 pages worth of editorial content to write.
Oh, wow.
So that would determine the size of the headline, the size of the photo, all of the above about what was actually going on, because we had to run it for the actual amount of cost to actually produce and make sure it was profitable. But it was interesting because that was decided at 10 a.m. And then ultimately throughout the course of the day, a whole range of different things would happen of when did the headline need to be locked in, what was the major front page story, what was the thing that was going to get people to pick it up off the news rack and buy the newspaper of the day. And then we had to have a whole series of things then proofed by 8 o'clock, and at 10 p.m. it had to be on the plates, and at midnight it had to be on the press, and by 3 a.m. it had to be on the trucks, for the first trucks to be going out so it could be delivered to Con's house by 5 a.m.
Yes.
And mate, just that was an unbelievable experience to learn the power of a deadline every day and to make sure that you do that. If you just adopted 10% of that,
I love that
into agent productivity, unbelievable result, right?
Yeah.